There you go. Hi, my name is Raquel in order bar. So you have to have the money of the beast on your mind or in your hand. It's one of those words that's not translated correctly in the Bible. They've been lying to you. A lot of people have been lying in this world. You know, there's so many liars. And they lied about the Kennedy assassination, and they lied about Martin Luther King. But there it is. No one buys about the money, charagma of the beast on your mind or in your hand. And here's the Greek-English lexicon from Liddell and Scott, the word charagma. You can see the impress on the coin or stamp money. And these kind of people, Plutarch and Antipater Thessalonius, lived about the same time that the book of Revelations was written. Anyway, my lead story is going to be Natalie Dylan. I am like so in love with her. She's a 22-year-old virgin, and she lives in San Diego. And she was going to school to learn to be a counselor in family counseling. And so like she needed the money to go to graduate school to become a grad student in women's studies. But she needed the money, and like her stepfather ran off with her money. And so her older sister went to the bunny ranch and prostituted herself for like 2 weeks and earned enough money to pay their way to go to finish school. And now they're out of money again, so Natalie got this idea where she'd sell her virginity on the at the bunny ranch. And so when I first heard about it, I was watching with my friend at my house. And I usually don't watch TV, but you know, my friend likes to watch it, and we thought we'd flip through the channels. And I think the first thing we saw was on Maury Povich, and it was just like this really sweet girl, Natalie Dylan, and they were told the whole story about it. And they were going to give her a lie detector test, and I kept telling my friend, I says, you know, just by listening to her, I can tell she's a virgin, because virgins have a certain kind of sweetness to them, and an innocence to them. Like there used to be a guy I knew who was a speaker, and he used to always say, a virgin can do no wrong, and because they've got some kind of innocence to them. And I have a theory that like once you lose your virginity, your personality changes. Like I've noticed it in my little sister, at least I think I did. You know, one night she came home and was acting kind of funny, and she was never really the same after that. And then I've noticed it in one of my older friends. When she lost her virginity, it was really bad. She really got bad. But and I got kind of bad, but I was like a 44-year-old virgin, and then I had a sex change operation, and then I lost my virginity. But anyway, let's get back to Natalie Dylan again. So anyway, she started off with Howard Stern, and then this was in September of last year. She started off on Howard Stern's show, and I've been watching on the Google trends about, you know, how this news is going. And then like January 12th, there was a huge spike in the trends, and she got in on she was number 16 on the top Google search out of, you know, it was the most Googled thing. And it's pretty interesting. Like last night, the lead story, the #1 thing was like broken penis, because I guess one of these television shows had something like that on there. But like Natalie Dylan was on CNN like January 12th. She was on today too, and if you go to CNN.com, you can see a little video of her on there. It used to be the top story on CNN, and CNN is like the biggest internet and cable television news thing. And she was on the international and everywhere. She's all over. She was in the newspapers. She had like 1 million web pages at one time. And I canceled out Charlie's Angels because Natalie and Dylan were two of the Charlie's Angels. And it still came up with 1 million. And then if you do like a 24-hour search of all the new web stories that came out in the last 24 hours, she had like 6,000 in just 24 hours that were up there. And it's just tremendous, the amount of publicity she's getting. And so far the highest bid is $3.8 million. But I'm pretty sure that the highest bidder wants to do a porno with her, and she doesn't really want to, you know. But she says she doesn't really value her virginity. But you know, I mean, other people do, of course, and so that's why the bidding is so high. And now she has an agent that's helping her out, and book offers too. And from what I've heard is that they kind of want to make us into a romance, you know, but you know, it's just not that easy to fall in love. You know, a lot of people go through their whole lives without romance. You know, a lot of people go through their whole lives without ever falling in love. But not me. I've fallen in love several times, and I actually really started to think I was really starting to fall in love with Natalie Dylan, like last Sunday, I think it was. I was just, oh gosh, I was just like, and I've had a lot of emails back and forth with her, and she gave me her phone number, but I just told her, look, you know, I say a lot of things on the telephone that I don't really mean to say, but I always hold to it, you know, but I don't like talking on the phone unless I really have to. But I told her, you know, it's so easy for me to fall in love. And so it's really hard to say how this is going to end. There are some people that are trying to raise enough money that she doesn't have to do this. You know, she's not committed to anything right now, so she can back out if she wants. But if she did go through with it, you know, I think that it would be a very significant thing. I mean, like, a lot of, like, virginity really isn't valued these days. Most people lose it in the backseat of a car or after they get drunk and pass out, or get raped, or their boyfriend lies to them and says they love them. You know, I mean, I wonder what a survey would find out. You know, how a person lost their virginity, and then, you know, whether their personality changes or not. I can tell you how I lost mine, and I really wanted to lose it after I had my sex change surgery. You know, I figured, you know, what the hell, you know, what's this thing for if you're not going to use it? And that's the same way I thought about the other thing, you know, I mean, use it or lose it. And each time I had a girlfriend or I was in love, it's just, you know, my body and flesh was willing to, but my heart really wasn't into it because I didn't really love them, and the passion wasn't there. I've had passion with women before, but I stopped myself because I realized that I didn't want to have a baby. That's one of the biggest problems in the world today, is there's so many people in the world, and it's just getting worse and worse. It just can't go on like this, you know. It's just geometric population growth. You can see how it's exploded. In 1946, there were 2 billion people, and then in 1992, 5.5, and then in 2032, 9 billion. It's just spiked up like that. And this is the way it looks in the United States. This red line is if we didn't allow any immigrants to come in. But it just doesn't look like a good place to raise children in this world, you know. And then there was an article on the internet today. It was in like the Telegraph, British Telegraph or London Telegraph or whatever it was, but it really gave a bad picture of the British economy. They were saying that the way things are going in Great Britain and the United Kingdom right now, they're likely to go the same way that Iceland did. And Iceland they canceled all their debts, all their foreign debts. They just said, we're not going to pay you, you know, what are you going to do about it? But Great Britain can't do that for some reason. The article was saying that, you know, reputation or something like that. They just can't renege on their debts. So they were saying in the article that the government is going to buy derivatives, hedge their bets about whether their country will pass or fail, you know, and they hope that that'll make people want to invest in, I don't know, these derivatives are very mysterious items. Let's see if I can find that here. Is this that? Oh yeah, Alan Greenspan is the one who got us into all this trouble. Here it is. Big cover story in the New York Times. The New York Times was examining the culprits that were involved in this fiasco that we have right now. It's a big full-page article, but this is the most striking thing that I've ever seen, and I have this up on my website and photographs and my MySpace too. If you zoom in here, I just couldn't believe this when I saw this. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, what is this? You know, 500 $31.2 trillion worth of derivatives. And then you can see the credit default swaps are a small part of that. So, you know, they're making a big deal out of this housing thing, and they're trying to make it look like the housing thing is the real problem. But it's actually these paper pigs is what I call them. You can see the growth of them. It went from 106 trillion in 2002 to $531 trillion. And Lyndon LaRouche has always been talking about these derivatives. He's always said, you know, these are just, it's funny money paper stuff. And there used to be laws against it. They called them bucket shops. And there's a really good 60 Minutes article about that, where before the Great Depression, they had these bucket shops where they were like off-track betting, where you could go in there and bet on the stock market. You could bet whether the price of the stock is going to go up or down, and you didn't have to have a broker make the bets for you. You just went in there and they did the bets for you. And they made that against the law, and they say that that contributed to the Great Depression. And so there was like a new law passed just as Bill Clinton was getting into office. It passed just was it after or before? I can't remember, but oh no, it was just before Christmas, so he couldn't have been in the office yet. And they snuck it through, kind of like the Federal Reserve Bank thing, and they snuck that through the Congress, and they put it in a huge budget thing, and nobody ever read it. And I have the culprits, you know, the people that were behind that. I can't remember if it was Phil Graham and some other people. I can't remember. I should write them all down. All the people that were behind this derivative scam. But like the economy looks so bad, you know. The only reason that the price of oil is low is because the economy slowed down and we're not burning as much energy. And it's all just this funny money stuff, you know. I think the real solution would be to just like cancel all the currency and reissue new currency, and we'd issue these $666, and I'm serious about this. It would be, and then by canceling the currency, we could find out who has all the money, and if they wanted to buy anything in the United States, they'd have to show where they got their money from, and then we could also find out where all the big drug dealers are. But I'm pretty much for LSD, ecstasy, marijuana, hash, and cocaine. You know, those are pretty good drugs. But then even my friends that do this meth and crystal meth tell me it's no good, you know, and some of the dealers that I've heard about say that you know, they wouldn't touch the stuff, they would never sell. So, you know, I mean, people have been using coke for a long time, and moderation is good for everything. You know, you don't want to do it every day, but it's like caffeine, you know, it picks you up. But anyway, I'm so in love with Natalie Dylan, and she invited me to her V-Day. That is, if I don't blow it with her first. She has a receptionist now that I don't think likes me too much, and they think I'm a bad influence on her, you know. But I love Natalie like a sister or a brother or, you know, whatever, and I wish her the best, you know. But I mean, she has such a great opportunity to show everybody that you know, virginity is a commodity that can be sold, and it really doesn't mean much. You know, the most important thing is to be fertile, you know, and you know, those are she's still fertile, I assume, you know, she's 22. So in a woman, you know, virginity isn't as important as it is with a man. And I've had a Jewish guy tell me this once, or I don't know what he was, but he told me that I guess in the Jewish law, maybe in the Talmud or something, it says that it's more important for a guy to be a virgin than a woman, you know. And I mean, practically, a woman can get married or have children once she has her period, and that's basically what nature intended. But the way society is now, that you're not allowed to marry in some places with And you can ask, I mean, like every state in the United States has like a different policy on it. And I think there's one state where you're allowed to marry at 14, but you have to have the parents' permission. Anyway, I don't know about this inauguration, you know. It's like, gosh, I think there's just too many problems in the world. And there's, like I said, it's just, I love these colors on this outfit. I like that. I dress like that sometimes. I think they say those clothes came from Gap or J. Crew or somebody like that. Or maybe they were even that other place. What is it? But let's see what else we got here. Maybe we can go back to Natalie Dylan later. Let's see. The National Socialist Movement is allowed to pick up trash along the roads there. And there's a thing on my website, the National Socialist Party program. One of the major party planks in the National Socialist Party program is against interest. Adolf Hitler didn't like interest. He called it the Jewish banking system, where they charge money for loans. And throughout the Christian era, it was like a sin to charge interest on loans. So the Jews took over that, and that's why they're so good at banking and everything. I'm trying to find that quotation by Aristotle, because Aristotle also didn't like interest. I don't have it on here. I'm just going to go through these articles. Okay, let's see. A big front page, big whole page story about the crimes of Israel. The Vatican Council for Justice calls the Gaza a concentration camp, and then we need to reevaluate our aid to Israel. We give Israel like $3 billion a year to buy these bombs, you know, to buy weapons. They're using that money to kill all these people. And then Dennis Kucinich made a good point. He says that there were over 1 million innocent civilians killed in Iraq in a war based on lies. We got into Iraq based on lies that, you know, about these weapons of mass destruction. And it's the same thing with the 9/11 thing. There was an article written by these neocons, I think it's called The New American Century, where they were where they had to design a new Pearl Harbor. That's exactly what they called it, in order to get us into a war frenzy. So they set up this controlled demolition. Like George Bush's brother was the head of security in the building. They easily could have rigged that with explosives, and you can see the way that's coming out there. There's an architectural engineer that goes to the University of Arizona, and he has meetings every Monday during the school session, and sometimes they talk about 9/11, but this architectural professor agrees that it's just, you know, an airplane flying into the building is not going to bring it down, because the core is right in the center, and you know, they can wipe out the windows like they did there. That's not where the support is. It's right in the center. And then jet fuel, you can see the jet fuel burned off right away. And a trash fire doesn't get hot enough to melt steel. There's no way, you know, that building would have collapsed except by a controlled demolition. And there's so many witnesses that say that they heard bang, 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 bang. And there's a good video at the bottom of my website all about this. And like, that's one of the reasons that Rosie O'Donnell got kicked off The View, was because she kept talking about this 9/11 stuff, you know, and they didn't want people starting to think about it, because it's just like the Kennedy assassination. And there's no doubt in my mind that the CIA was involved in the Kennedy assassination. In fact, that was one of the when I ran for office a couple of years ago, I put this out, and it was 2002. I ran for state representative, and Gabriel Giffords was running for the Senate and the state legislature. But these two guys here, right there, were, oh no, it's these two guys, were arrested along with a third one in back of the grassy knoll. They found him inside a railroad car, right after the Kennedy assassination. And then right after the Watergate burglars, these two guys were part of the Watergate burglary. And they're CIA agents. E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis were arrested in right after the assassination, but they had fake names and they let them go. But you can see the resemblance to them here. And then Jim Garrison, who was like the Attorney General in New Orleans. There's a really good movie by Oliver Stone called JFK, and there's a little segment in this movie where they show these tramps being arrested. In fact, I kind of like to think I was responsible for that, because when I found out that Oliver Stone was doing this movie, I sent him a copy of this newspaper article I wrote about who killed Kennedy. I wrote like a 3-page article back in the winter of 1987, and it shows about this magic bullet. You can see this magic bullet. Oh, here you go. There it is. This is so ridiculous. This is a Warren Commission exhibit here, and they say that this bullet shot through and did all this kind of damage here, and then it comes out looking pristine like this. They found this bullet on the gurney, and that's what a bullet looks like when it hits something. You know, it supposedly nicked some bones too, but it just came out in like pristine condition. So I gave this to Oliver Stone, and then I also gave this to that guy Bo Gritz. When he was in town, he had a really pretty wife, and I told him, I says, Bo, you know, there's a lot of deceivers in this right-wing political movement, because I used to go to these right-wing political meetings at the Saturday morning breakfast club. It was entertainment, you know, and I didn't drink back then, you know, so I wasn't wasted the next morning, and I'd get up early in the morning and go down there and listen to these speakers just for entertainment. And so I told Bo Gritz, I says, you know, you got to be careful, you know, what you listen to, because there's a lot of deceivers out there, and once you say one thing that is incredible, then you kind of like destroy your whole credibility. There was like this one guy who gave a really good talk about Darfur and said that there's all this oil in Darfur, and that's the whole reason for this ethnic cleansing there, is because they want to start drilling there. And then I don't know if he came back again later and gave a talk about this, they call it HARP, high atmospheric radio something or other. It's supposedly they got this stuff up in Alaska where they can control the weather, and that just kind of blew his credibility with me. But I wanted to show you this thing here. Here it is. Not only did the World Trade Center collapse, but building number 7 collapsed. And this building housed the CIA, and it was supposed to be Giuliani's headquarters for a disaster, but he wasn't there. And there's a really good video. I don't know, he was some kind of a fire marshal or something. And he's dead now, too. He had like a heart attack. It could be another one of those mysterious witness disappearances, like right after the Kennedy assassination. They had a tremendous actuarial deaths, you know. I mean, there was just too many people that ended up dead right after this. I thought we had it in the story here. Oh yeah, 18 key witnesses mysteriously died in 3 years after the coup d'etat. This was a coup d'etat in America. John Kennedy had so many enemies. His brother Robert was like Attorney General, and Robert was against these mergers and acquisitions. And nowadays what they want to do is they want to merge all these banks that are failing into big mega banks. You know, I don't really understand why, but that's what they want to do. And you know, it's monopoly. That was another big thing in American history, is this monopoly stuff. I forgot, the Taft-Hartley Trade Act or something, where they stopped doing it. It's getting hot in here. I might take my jacket off, but and then office fires don't melt steel. This building in Madrid was on fire for like 24 hours, and you can see it didn't collapse. But you know, there's no excuse for building number 7 to collapse. I mean, this is like the elephant in the room right here. And you don't get any news reporters talking about this. And here's another funny story about Natalie. Natalie and me, I think we're so perfect for each other. Because I've been really into virginity. You know, I was a virgin for almost all my life, you know. It was, you know, I was kind of fascinated with it. I'm kind of fascinated with breech birth, too. I was born breech. Not very many people are born breech. It happens like 3% of the population. And usually, like, twins are born, one is head first. In the womb, you know, they're like that because they fit better. That's the way they end up. And one twin will come out breech, and the other one will come out head first in the vertex position. And so I have a couple twin friends here in town. One of them is like the exact opposite of the other. One of them is like into Buddhism and crazy things like that, you know. And seances, well, not seances, but, you know, he's into stuff of the heart, you know, spirit. Whereas his brother was a nuclear scientist. He almost got his PhD in nuclear physics, but he decided to get into politics instead. And they're just like exact opposites. And it's like I've run into some other people that are kind of like me, you know, they're just kind of different. And I asked him, I says, you know, were you born breech? And they said, yeah. In fact, like, one of these girls I fell in love with, I thought, wow, man, this girl's just like me, you know, kind of crazy. And so I started falling in love with her. This was in Tucson. And that's how I ended up getting stuck here. I don't know, it's a long story. But it turned out that I finally realized that she was a hooker. You know, and I never, you know, and so like I had a really crazy experience because I was like so in love with her that I felt really insecure about her leaving and never coming back. And like one night it was pouring rain out, like 3 in the morning, and I just started feeling like a 14-year-old. And then I started feeling like an 8-year-old. And then it was all dark and quiet, and I saw this flash of light, and I said, God. And then after that, I felt like a real peace and calm. And the next day, it stopped raining, and it was sunny out, and I came out of the car, and everything just seemed so different. And then, like, a couple years later, I was at the University of Arizona giving one of my sermons on the mall, and this really pretty nice, sweet girl, blonde hair, came up to me and told me, yeah, I've had the same experience, you know. And I said, oh yeah, really? Why don't you tell me about it? And she said that she fell in love with like this professor who was much older than her. And the professor was married too, even. And yet she didn't really care. And then she had that same kind of feeling where she felt really insecure and entered the womb and saw the flash of light. And I fell in love with her too, you know. And I asked her to marry me, but unfortunately she didn't accept, and she's much better off now. She's married to a doctor in Marin County, and she teaches English literature up there somewhere. I've never seen her since, but I've looked on the internet, and she's got a kid too. But her husband is like just a doctor who's into poetry and music just like she is. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. And I believe that there's a perfect person for everybody, and you never can predict how it's going to end. Because if you could predict, life would be boring. And then in between these two situations with these women, I fell in love with another girl too, and I was parked at 3812 North Country Club Road, and it's the Racket Club Apartments now. But everybody in the neighborhood liked me there because I kept the people from partying there. And so this girl would walk her dog all the time, and she'd see me sitting there underneath a tree. In my car, I had a Volkswagen van, I was living in my car. So she comes over and starts talking to me, and I don't know, we both kind of started to fall in love with each other, but I realized it wouldn't work out. In fact, her dog attacked me, you know. Well, it came running up to me and leaped up on me and almost knocked me over, and then she started laughing about it. But anyway, Let's see what else is going on in the news today. Let's see what this is. Oh, the best movies. Like the first song I played was from Slumdog Millionaire. I went and saw it the other day only because it won so many Academy Awards, and it's one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. I'd give it 5 stars because it shows the poverty in the world. It's like a lot of people think they can do something with charity, but like I was saying earlier in the show, with geometric world population growth, it's like plugging a leaky dam, you know. It just can't go on like this. The world can't go on like this, you know. Something's got to change, you know, and I just don't think Obama's got it to do it, you know. It's going to take drastic change, and we should bring our troops home because we're going to have to defend ourselves. But getting back to that story in Great Britain where they're saying that their economy might end up like Iceland, part of the pressure that they can't renege on those is if they've got debt owed to China or to Russia, they've got nuclear weapons. So if they say, well, we're not going to pay your debt, Russia, sorry, you know, then they could get into a war over it, you know. All wars are caused for the sake of getting money. And I don't know, it's like there's a picture on my website. It's a JPEG of 2 graphs that were merged. And one of the graphs is peak oil, like it's like a bell curve, you know. It's like, and we're on the downward slope now. It's like, you know, oil is a finite resource. And here's where you get some lunatic theories. There's some people that I know or, you know, run into say that the oil is actually created underground, you know, and it can renew itself, and this is all a conspiracy. And I said, yeah, right, yeah. You know, my grandfather was a geologist. He won the Penrose Medal, and my grandfather was the teacher of M. Hubbard King, who developed this peak oil thing back in the 70s. But nobody really listened. I mean, there's supply and demand for oil, and with the population growing the way it is, it just can't go on like this, you know. And the world really needs a savior, somebody that can lead the people. There's only 2 solutions, you know. I mean, they could engineer a catastrophe so that a lot of people would die off, and that's what this chart shows. It shows that a lot of people are going to end up dying off because, in fact, one of my favorite websites is called dieoff.com, and it's all about peak oil. And you know, they're having trouble in Europe right now with the natural gas. Like when I was in Amsterdam, I went to, well, first I went to Basel, Switzerland, because Albert Hofmann was having his 100th birthday and I couldn't miss that. And after that I decided to go to Amsterdam. Let's see, I've been to Amsterdam I think 3 times, yeah, 3 times. But when I went there, it was in the winter, and it was like in March, and it was just absolutely freezing, bitterly cold. And I didn't bring the right clothes at all. I didn't bring any jeans. I brought a thin pair of white pants and a bunch of sweaters, you know, and an umbrella. At least I brought an umbrella, but I kept worrying. And not only that, but they had like Muslim, like over here in the United States, we've got Indians that run the hotels, but over there, it was Muslims. And I ran into problems with the Muslims at my hotel in London, too. One of the guys really liked me, you know, he was a desk clerk there. And so I told him, you know, why don't you check out my website? And so then, like, the next day, he was like, oh, yeah, right. And then, like, when I was in Amsterdam, I was going to go to a sex club. So I decided, well, you know, I don't want to take, it was during the daytime, you know, I figured, I want to take a bus, you know, and see it like everybody else does, you know, see the city and see what they have to do, you know. So I had my stupid Amsterdam map, and I had the address of the place written down with the name, too, right on the map. And stupid me, you know, I showed these Muslims, hey, you know, do you know how to get here? And they were all like, oh, no. And finally, one guy kind of like, well, he didn't really go like that, but I finally got the message that these guys aren't going to tell me where this place is. But fortunately, I found it, you know, and I went in there, and it's a long story. But it's legal to take mushrooms. They sell like 5 different kinds of mushrooms there, psilocybe mushrooms. And the best ones they have come from Hawaii. And they're real small ones. And like they have them dried and fresh. You can get fresh ones. And I tried to rent a window there in Amsterdam and prostitute myself, but like when I was going to pay for the room, the guy wanted to see my passport, and I said, "Oh wow, I don't have it with me, you know, and I'll have to go get it." So I went and got it and came back, and then he said, "Oh, I can't rent to you because you're not in the European Union." And like over there, they have they don't have any borders, and like people from Albania and Czechoslovakia and Poland especially come into the country and take the low-paying jobs. And this is one of the most saddest parts. So when I went to Amsterdam, I went to like a couple of these sex clubs, and I was willing to go, and I did at one, you know. And so the first one I went into had like these really young Albanian girls, and they couldn't speak English. One of them could barely. So, you know, I sat down with them, at like 8 of them at this couch, on this couch. And they really liked my hair. They thought, "Wow, is that real?" I said, "Yeah, you know, it's real." And so they clocked me right away, and they asked me if I was a lady boy, and I said, "No, I had the surgery." But they didn't want me there, you know, I could tell. But and one of the guys warned me. He says, "Look, you know, these people don't take anything." And I said, "Well, you know, I'm gonna talk to him first, you know, and see if it'll work." But it was a very slow night. It was a Tuesday, and I only saw like 3 girls getting the action. One of them got twice, and she was the prettiest one. But that's how desperate they are. They're these pretty young 19, 20-year-old girls in there selling themselves, and then that's about the way it is. What else have we got to do here? Yeah, you got to see this Slumdog Millionaire. It's really a good story, and it's kind of the way I think about Natalie Dylan too. She's got kind of the same situation with this money. It's a big question, you know. Is she going to take the money, or is she going to get enough money to go to school and live happily ever after? But I mean, she says she doesn't value her virginity, so like, why not just take the money and run, you know? And you know, like, if you don't, you could end up losing it some other way. It's like a one-time thing, you know. I don't think any other person is going to have this kind of opportunity to do this. And then, like, if she doesn't do it, I mean, what kind of a story is that, you know? So, I mean, I don't think she'll get a book or a movie deal out of that. And, you know, it's like make a good Disney movie. But, I mean, realistically, I don't think she's gonna find romance, but maybe she can get enough money to do some charity work. So I suggested to her that, you know, we could form our own charity, and we could, she likes animals, so we would, I've practically proposed to her too on the internet, but so I says, you know, you can live at my house. I've got like, the front house has 2 bedrooms, and I used to always rent it to students. So I wouldn't mind letting them live in there, and all I do is sleep up there, but like they could go to school, and then we would manage this. She wants to fight sex slavery, you know, especially child prostitution. But like I said earlier, it's like Nicholas Kristof, who's a New York Times columnist, has written many stories. This is one of his things he likes to do during the winter, is go to Africa or to India or to the southeast, and so he went into like these child brothels there and paid like $200 or $300 to buy these girls back. And like one girl did okay on her own after she got out, but the other one went right back. So I mean, with the world population, and when you see Slumdog Millionaire, you'll see the hopelessness of trying to stop child prostitution. You're not going to do it unless we eliminate money. That's what has to be done. And there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of corn and soybeans. And I lived on corn and soybeans for a whole year. It's an experiment. And I took like 100 milligrams of vitamin C too. And I loved it. You put a little pinch of salt in there and grind it up and boil it, and it's a perfect nutrition, the corn and soybeans. It has like natural oil, plus there's a little vitamin A in there too in the corn, but you gotta have that vitamin C. And so like we would have a charity, and I think we should fund male to female sex change operations too. Like I know a couple trannies here in town that are virgins too. They've never had sex with a woman, so they might as well get the sex change. They want to, you know, and so I told them if I ever get the money, I'd do it. But I ran into some economic problems with this housing slump, and I have all these liens on my properties for the development, which we're trying to get a lawyer for to sue them and get these liens removed. But we'll have to see, you know, I mean, I always expect a miracle, but, so anyway, you know, I sold as soon as I get the money, I told them I'd take them like, well, a couple of years ago, you know, I mean, the economy was good, I was making a lot of money, and I thought I was going to be a millionaire, and then this whole thing hit the fan, but so I'm just really kind of a millionaire on paper, but I have a pretty good income, but so I can just sit around at home all day and not really do very much. In fact, you know, I was telling Natalie that it's more fun fooling around on the internet than watching TV. So for a while, I was just like, this past week with all this action on the internet, she had like so many, one of the highest searches the other day was Natalie Dylan MySpace. And I started the Natalie Dylan fan club almost as soon as I found out about her. I changed MySpace over to that, and so my old friends are now members of the Natalie Dylan fan club. I think I lost a couple of them. But anyway, I told Natalie that you've got to get yourself a MySpace, you know. All the other women at Bunny Ranch have them, you know, so I encouraged her to get a MySpace, and that really helped. And I've been with Natalie all this time, and I really have these crazy fantasies. I mean, it's better than watching TV, you know, and so I just have this, I don't know how long she's going to hold out, you know, until that some charity comes along and bails her out or something, but, you know, it all depends on where they want the money to go, for one thing, or if she can really actually do whatever she wants with it. But, you know, she thinks that if she commits to giving all the money to charity, that this book and movie deal will be enough. But, like, I don't think that that's a very good story. You know, it might make an hour movie on TV or something, but, I mean, what kind of an ending is that? I mean, I think they're looking for romance. I think the people that are putting up the book and movie deal are thinking she can find romance, you know, and make a good movie for young girls to save their virginity. But even Natalie knows that saving your virginity isn't that really important, you know. It's better to lose it in a good way than in a bad, you know, and just get it over with so that you don't have to worry about it, you know, anymore, for one thing. But, like, the only sad part about it is I really do believe that your personality changes once you lose your virginity. But, like, I mean, you can still be happy, you know. I mean, you can still be miserable, a virgin, too. And in fact, I was, you know, but for a while. But it's all about money. The whole reason why we're in this situation today is this funny money. It's just like paper funny money. There's a really good poem in Goethe's Faust where Mephistopheles is introduced to the treasurer, and the Mephistopheles is the devil, and he tells the treasurer, you know, just print this paper up, you know, and give it away, and everything will be taken care of. And the treasurer is just really happy about that. So people have this faith in money, and it says on the dollar bill, "In God we trust," but, like, you know, all others pay cash. And it's sort of like, it's just, you know, it's like, Karl Marx said, you know, everything is gold, money turns everything into a commodity. That's what it does, yes. And it's totally unnecessary. We don't need money. It's just a way to make people slaves, you know. There's so many people that are involved with money. You've got bankers, bookkeepers, accountants, salesmen, sales clerks. And like the financial industry was the biggest generator, the highest percentage generator of money in the past decade. And it's all just flipping money and speculation. In fact, speculation used to be against the law in the Soviet Union. And it's not a good thing. It's like betting on the horses. It's gambling. And those bucket shops that Alan Greenspan was aware of was it's legalized gambling is what it is on Wall Street. And it's just such a tremendous fiasco what's happened to this world and this country. I mean, like, modern machinery is supposed to make life easy for us, so that, you wouldn't have to work. But when I was growing up, my dad made enough money. In fact, a garbage man made enough money so that they didn't have to have the wife go to work, and she could stay home and raise the children like my mom did. So, why has it gotten worse? Modern machinery is supposed to make things easier for us. But they have this interest slavery, and I just got my tax receipts. I've got like a bunch of deeds of trust, and I just got my tax receipts, and I'm looking what these poor people have to pay to me, on the interest statements, and they're paying interest and principal, and it's just the game, man. It's the game, and I think you guys are going to get off, man. I think the whole thing is going to go down, and you'll never end up having to pay the rest of it to me, because it's all going to hit the fan. This funny money is just, this country is just, it's on its last legs. And it's like that article I saw, it was in the Telegraph today or yesterday. I get these newsletters from the Peak Oil Group, and this is from High Finance. He gets articles from Wall Street Journal and international newspapers that they don't telling us about here. I think Great Britain is in a much worse situation than we are here. And it really is. When I went to London, I didn't like it at all. I didn't like London at all. I don't see why anybody would like to live there. It's like cold in the winter and, not that much better in the summer. And then you have all these immigrants there. And in fact, on the internet, one of these girls was saying that the Turkish guys there are very rude to the women when they go to the bars. It's just like, it's just this whole world has gotten, and this Muslim religion isn't much better than the so-called Christian religion. A true Christian, Jesus Christ was the logos or logic of God, and you can't kill the truth. The truth will rise again. It's another one of those mistranslated words, like the word mammon. Jesus Christ said you can't serve God or money, but they don't translate that word mammon right. Mammon is a Hebrew word for money, and that's what it really is, but they don't want to tell you. That's what I'm saying. It's like they didn't want to translate the Bible for a long time, and one of these guys, Tyndale, who translated one of the first Bibles, was considered a heretic, and they burned him at the stake. And they left a few words not translated correctly, and this is another one. And in Goethe's Faust is pondering over this, the word. What is the word? But the word is the logos. It's the logos or logic of God. And it's just that, logic will save you, not some pie-in-the-sky crazy stuff where if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is risen from the dead, you're going to be saved. The whole problem with the church is this guy, St. Paul, and Thomas Jefferson had his own Bible where he cut and pasted stuff, and he practically ripped to shreds all that other stuff except the Gospels. The 5 Gospels are some of my most favorite books. Jesus Christ was a revolutionary. He upset the tables of the money changers. He told his disciples to go forth without carrying any money in their purses. The Buddhists believe in the Buddha told his disciples not to carry any money in their purses. St. Francis of Assisi told his disciples to not carry any money, and the Essenes did. I don't know if I mentioned them, but these famous people. There's a whole bunch more on my website. Anyway, I love Natalie Dylan. God bless everybody. Peace and love. Yeah. missed. Oh well.